definitely, if you have chance, practice before before the big presentation. So I'm going to give a really brief intro of what I've been doing since I spoke to you guys last time. I was at Donata Travel Group, so for 4, 5, 6 years actually, looking at various travel websites. I was kind of responsible for UX of all of those, but sadly I was made redundant just before Christmas last year, and it kind of got me thinking about what to do with my life and my family's life. And we decided to up sticks and move to Denmark. There's my wife and kids. We've sold the house. That's my old team there that I've left behind.
You got mute, Paul.
We've lost you, Paul.
Paul, you got mute. Jesus.
No.
Yeah. Let me just message him.
How ironic it says audiology.
Do we all message him?
Yeah.
Very well timed, isn't it?
Jesus Christ, Yamaha.
In a flow.
Unfortunate content.
Anyway, you need to hear it.
Loving the slides.
Presentation.
Paul?
Come back to us, Paul.
He's laughing as well. If he can't hear us, it's going to be
Paul, we can't hear you.
I don't think he can hear us either.
No, doesn't sound like
Someone
it.
type it in the chat then, go on.
Yeah.
I've got my tea, so I can't.
Giles, I think you might need to boot him out. He might get the message in.
Yeah. Could be a good one, that.
Get Jackie Weaver in.
And you know what? I might boot him out.
Let's just hope he comes back.
Yeah, maybe send him a courtesy text as well to let him know it's not personal.
I ain't got his message. I ain't got. I haven't got his number. Right, I'm gonna have to boot him out.
I think at the end we'll just have to smile and clap and say, "Great job."
Can't somebody just kick him off like they did at that parish council meeting last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, just right click.
We can't even send a note, can we?
He's got his Slack open.
So wait, it won't pop up if we just send it through.
I've sent it on
just the Zoom chat, right?
Yeah, we're trying to do both, I think.
I just say that. Yeah, what the hell? Why is it not working? All right, okay, let me try that.
Maybe we should all wave at the screen and he'll
Good shout.
realise something's up.
Everyone wave.
Yeah.
Paul, he's not even looking at the screen.
Oh,
dude, we can't hear you.
Oh.
I think he's waving back now.
He is.
You just think it's going really, really well.
Zoom need to come up with something to fix this problem.
I suppose if you present, he's just looking at his slides, not us, isn't he?
Yeah, probably. And in Teams, you can put your hand up, can't you? You can actually click the icon and it puts the hand back on the screen. So, like, it's a shame you can't do that.
Looks good.
Looks great.
Well, I'm recording this, so this can be like the blooper. We can have bloopers for 2021.
Yeah, have a highlight reel from the end of the year. There's the hand.
You can raise your hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I do it?
Everybody raise their hand.
If you go to chat, and then raise hand is at the bottom.
Merci beaucoup.
He's probably said, hands up who thinks something. We were going, yes.
How'd you put this hand up then?
Yeah, I might do it.
Let's go reactions.
Go to the chat. That's how I did it. And then at the bottom.
Yeah, on mine it's under reactions, which is like on the core nab at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right, put him in a waiting room.
Give him a timeout.
On the naughty step.
Got a proper Jackie Weaver.
You have no authority here.
Yeah, good point. Right, now hopefully.
What was it? Read the recommendations or whatever it was.
Hilarious. Right, he's probably still yabbering on. I've let him in again. Paul.
And they have to be quite.
Oh,
Paul.
we didn't hear.
We haven't heard you for the last 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Since moving to Denmark.
I can't hear you again.
It's
Oh.
We had to kick you out of the room and put you back in
yeah.
again. No, right. No.
You've gone again.
It's that Danish broadband.
Maybe he fancies typing everything in the chat what he was going to say.
Is this a Brexit thing that they can't talk to us? If
It's not
Seriously, since moving to Denmark, you haven't heard any of that?
Exactly,
No.
yeah.
No.
Oh,
No, we
I
heard
love
a
how
bit
you
about
heard
your
that bit,
family
though.
and then it cut off.
This is absolutely epic. Right, do you want to fire up again and start going?
give it a go. Yeah.
All right.
This could be the end of me.
Just keep tabs on the chat. Just keep tabs on the chat in case we lose.
we'll
you.
wave at you.
Yeah.
This is going on the extras DVD, Paul, like the outtake.
Oh, dear.
Director's cut.
Right. So, should we fire up again?
Yeah.
Show you
Do it.
So, it was the last picture of you with your family outside your house we saw.
You were joking that far back.
Yeah.
If you go off again, you need to be aware that we're going to send you a message or something.
Yeah.
There we go. Pick it up from here.
Okay, right. I'm going to have to skim through this. Oh, yeah. So I moved to Denmark with the family. I've got my work permit for the next couple of years, which is really cool. And I've just started working at this company, WSA Audiology. I think every so often just shout out, just so I can try and hear you. And they specialize in hearing aids. And I mean, the tech for hearing aids is pretty astonishing, actually. I just didn't know so much about it. So actually doing the investigation on it, some really cool tech out there. And this is the stuff for kids.
How did you get involved in this coming from travel?
That's a very good question. I actually, if you look at I've worked in lots of different sectors. I just wanted to do something that was a bit more, I don't know, beneficial, trying to help people, I suppose.
Right.
And I wanted to move into health tech. I hadn't been into that area before. And I think initially I was thinking of more kind of, something to do with COVID or that, that side of it. But then I saw this opportunity. What was interesting about this was they're going through a bit of a transformation period. So they're looking for someone to come in and help them with their processes and bring them up to date, really. And I thought that was quite an interesting challenge.
That's an interesting point you raised there, because we often talk about portfolios and how people want to see how people think about things and how people stitch together processes. And it goes a bit what you're saying there. If you've got a successful process in a business, you can apply it from a UX perspective. You can apply that process to any industry, really. And this is a good demonstration of that fact in itself.
Yes, definitely. I think this is a good way to keep the conversation going, Giles. Every so often, just butt in rather than just let me talk, because then I'll know if we lose signal or not. Okay.
Don't worry about that. Everyone else feel like they want to as well. If they
You speak Danish, Paul?
Yeah. No, I know a few words. I've known my wife for like 12 years or something like that, but I still don't. It's a very hard language to pick up. But what's great about this company is it's international. English is the first speaking language. I mean, the majority of people there are Danish, but everyone's speaking English, so it's not a barrier, really.
Yeah.
Right. And these are all the brands that this company owns.
That's right. Yeah, I think WS Audiology are almost like they're servicing these brands and creating almost like white labels for them to reskin and use. So I suppose there's two types of brands. There's these types, which is this is for Widex, which is for the customers actually to be able to control their hearing aid. They can customize the sound, they can plug into the TV, all sorts of things. Really cool. And then there's actually the people that fit the hearing aids. So actually, you go in for a fitting, you check the person's kind of hearing issues, and then work out what type of hearing aid they need.
That's a really interesting point. Actually, businesses often forget that every product often has two sides to it, not just the one side that the user sees, the sexy things like the apps and that sort of stuff. And it's an interesting point you've risen there, because we're doing some work at the moment with TalkTalk, and we realised that we're trying to sell a product, and we actually realised that we can do only so much with the customer, but we're actually not giving the salespeople the right tools themselves to actually log appointments and ask the right questions, and actually there's no interface for them to operate correctly, and it's an interesting thing. People forget about that. There's often two sides to these sort of things. That's really interesting.
There's just a few screens there, so you have to kind of configure each hearing aid. It might be slightly different hearing deficiency in each ear. Okay, that's cool. Let's go to. So I was saying, the first project really was to, I suppose, try and unite the teams and create a set of design principles that can help them, have a set of values that they can work towards, because it's not really there at the moment. And I read all this stuff out before, so I'll quickly go through it. So you guys probably know what a set of design principles are, but they're going to act as a benchmark for teams working on a particular product. It helps them measure the quality of their work. I'm talking to someone, sorry.
Who came out with the design principles? Was that one of your things, was that you've introduced, or was that something that already exists there?
No, this is what I'm introducing now, yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So the idea is to create a set of 6 to 8 principles that will be, split between those brands that those teams can work at. And I showed this image, like the Avengers kind of represent the UX teams and how they're kind of trying to protect the design. There's so many different factors that come in that can try and kind of chip away at that beautiful design, be it time constraints or developers saying no, or whatever, stakeholders, whatever. But if you've got this set of principles, then that really helps you kind of keep a consistent way of working. I'll briefly go through. This is just my quick timeline on how I'm kind of breaking the project up. So there's a research part where I'm kind of interviewing all the members of the team. I'm looking at principles that are already out there, particularly software competitors, and things like the laws of UX and complex software guides. And the idea is to get loads of really nice nuggets of information from that, consolidate that feedback, and from that I'm hoping to get some themes that are really prominent, and we can start maybe doing an internal workshop to look at those themes. I'm going to skip all that because we're probably running out of time, aren't we?
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. There's no need to rush through things too much. We can always, if people have to drop off, we can always sort of put the recording.
Okay, cool. I want
to talk about these because I think design principles are really fundamentally important. Something we haven't spoken about a great deal as a group. And very often these things, like you say, can protect the integrity of a team's design and work, and often radiate out into other departments who otherwise might be thinking that all our job really is colouring things in with Crayola, when it's actually
so I was kind of looking out there, what's the definition of a good design principle? Good design principles are memorable. They have to be quite short and snappy. It can't be a long paragraph because no one's ever going to remember those, and you have to be quite succinct with what you're saying as well. They help you say, no, you've come up with this principle and it's doing a particular job. Let's get what else we got. I think a lot of principles. I'll show some examples. They kind of have these even or overstatements, like accessibility even over aesthetics. It's like that's quite a common pattern for how you lay them out. So the next few slides really is you can just start seeing my research. So there was actually some principles set out already by the apps team. This is a set of customer facing principles, which were quite interesting, but they were done about 3 or 4 years ago. I was looking at the kind of the core, starting to look at things like the core brand values, and just picking out little nuggets there, like market leading solutions, best hearing care in the easiest way, innovating to deliver, like just these little nuggets you can use a bit later in your workshops. I think that's quite cool.
And I think those things are quite interesting, looking at sort of like there, you're uncompromising attention to detail. Again, but you use especially in their workshops. If you're in a workshop and you're facilitating things and you feel that someone in the industry or someone in your business is pushing something through, you can often turn around and say, that's not in line with our principles. That's not in line with the design principles of this company. And you can use these principles to stand behind and to actually, in a non-aggressive way, promote the importance of good design. So I think those sort of things are really interesting to learn.
Let's see what else I was doing. Oh yeah, and I was just trying to understand what exactly it is we're doing, kind of the journey of the software, and trying to understand similar types of industries. It's quite hard actually. I mean, other med tech industries, connected devices like Alexa, you're creating software that connects to a product, as we're creating this software that connects to a hearing aid. People like Atlassian, you're kind of creating a piece of software there. I thought that was quite interesting. I still need to find some more examples of, you can see there from my post-its, but it's obviously, you got people like Apple and material design, which are quite standard that everyone will probably look to, but then it's trying to find something that's a bit more kind of affiliated with the industry you're doing. So
you got some really interesting industry research then in terms of platforms and tech, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
See what their principles are to sort of see how they operate themselves. That's really,
and then looking at what was this for? Oh yeah, this was 8 design guidelines for complex applications, and the UX, laws of UX as well, which are great websites to look at. I think these are more kind of lower level principles to actually look at, but it's good as a bit of a guidelines, and heuristics as well.
Hey Paul, am I allowed to ask a super quick question? Or maybe it might have a longer answer than the question, but I guess in my mind, the question I have first and foremost is, what is the difference in your mind then between design principles and a style guide? Because obviously, I believe from what you're saying here, you kind of see them as separate things. So do the principles kind of layer over the top of an existing style guide, or how do you see it?
I think they usually, if you look at like a design system or something like that, they might have the set of principles at the start, and that's kind of your overarching principles for how you're creating the style guide underneath. So yeah, I suppose that's at the top, and whatever you're doing kind of follows that underneath. That's what I would say. And I suppose a style guide is more about looking at things like, could be obviously looking at things like fonts and colors and layout and that sort of thing, whereas this is more about why you're doing something in a particular way.
But I like this sort of thing though, because these why you're doing it in a certain way, in a particular way, has, well, we're talking about principles, but it has the very reason for being. I was explaining why you might be choosing red, for example, or why you might be choosing blue, because you want to speak in some sort of authority tone or whatever, that sort of stuff. And those things can be driven out from your principles. So very often you can use these principles as guiding references to how to expand a style guide, how to create a style guide, how it actually gets executed. And I find these things are really fascinating, very important when you're putting together any kind of design. You don't have to go to these kind of levels, of course. I mean, we're looking at very, very advanced levels, and looking at Apple, but almost goes a little back to what Tony presented not so long ago. Was thinking about your own principles and what sort of things you want to say and how you want to come across. If you can get those kind of overarching principles, then you'll find that your designs will follow a very distinct pattern, and it's very hard to go off piste. This is some great research. You've got stuff here. I'm really, really interested.
So. I've got a bit more kind of competitor research to do, but then I'm starting to look at kind of the stakeholders that I want to include. So the UX team, the product owners that are associated with that product, some developers, and obviously the brand team, and some higher stakeholders are just trying to lay that out at the moment, and either do kind of one-to-one interviews where I'm asking them particular questions about, you know, what kind of values they have themselves, or doing a questionnaire. So I'm just literally putting that together now. That's kind of my next part.
How long does it take you realistically to complete all of this?
Basically, I started this last week, so I've got 4 weeks to do it. So week 1 was research, and then this week it's more one-on-one interviews. And actually, you can see here I've started to kind of group some of the themes together. So I've talked about the WSA stuff there, like market leading solutions and leading innovation. I thought, you know, that's quite like some nice little nuggets there that I could use further down the line. Innovating to deliver sound so natural, things like that. So like little buzzwords that I think actually maybe that could be part of a principle going down the line. So I've still got to fill in this board quite a bit. I still need to finish, get the UX team's input from here. And also HCP stands for hearing care professionals, which are the people that are using the software. So I've got a questionnaire out for those guys to have a look at. So the idea is this board will be full up with loads of little themes. Sorry, did someone say something then?
Yeah, sorry, Giles. I was wondering who tasked you with doing this job when you joined? Was it something you picked up yourself, or someone said, "Here you go, you got 4 weeks to pull together some design principles for us"?
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, 4 weeks to put the. I mean, I'm doing other things as well, but this was like my first major project.
Great.
Who do you present it to?
Though we were discussing that. So actually, I think various levels of stakeholders. So I think because the UX team is going to be using it predominantly, I want to get their buy-in, and we're working collaboratively to do that. But then stakeholders like head of UX and maybe some of the higher product managers as well. So I won't present all of this. I will just have maybe some of the themes consolidated and just to show our thinking.
How are you finding it getting hold of all the stakeholders?
That's a really interesting one because I don't know them all yet because I've just started the job. I'm doing okay actually. I think I need to go a bit higher up the ladder though. I'm pretty low. I've got maybe 2 or 3 levels that I'm looking at the moment, but I need to go a bit higher. So, but I'll get there. It's a bit because it's a new job, and I'm still trying to work out the kind of hierarchy of people. So, yeah. So that's kind of where I've got to, but I'll quickly show you these boards as well. So we'll do a bit of a workshop, I think, probably early next week, where we'll take some of those key themes and start to flesh them out a little bit more. You know, what do these actually mean to people? How can we actually turn them into principles? And you might get various stakeholders to look at that. And because I've been kind of tasked to make sure I'm including a couple of brands, I need to make sure that their values are added as well. So, and then I've just got some other ideas. Maybe we can do some mind mapping. I don't know if people have done that before, where you have a principle and then you write. You can write it as a user story, and I think the idea is you can write it as many different times until you get like the perfect sentence. So as a user, I should be able to complete complex workflows. Our design should cater for data-heavy workflow. So it's almost like you're creating this sentence to do with simplicity. I've actually not done this before, but I want to bring it into a workshop and try it out.
So the process of that was you come up with the first sentence. What have you got there? So the first one was a user, I should always be clear what to do. And then you'd think, okay, what's our sentence to answer that?
No, the process is you pick the theme, which this is like some simplicity. And then as a user, and then you write what simplicity is. So I should always be clear on what to do. or I should be able to complete complex workflows.
Right. And then the designs on the
And then you,
what's driving those out?
I suppose it's like you are following this principle. What will your designs be like? So I suppose a bit of a visual way of doing it. So our design should have less elements and be well categorized. So you're not going to pick all of these. These are just like loads of different ideas for how you could write it, and then you'll choose the best. Or vote on the best. I think there'll be some dot voting, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning there as well that on a lot of projects you'll find that this is generally an activity that you'd work on with the BA. So BA being business analyst. So obviously they'll have more specific nailed on things, you know, as a user, I should be able to do X, and it might be something really, really technical, a bit more on the boring side rather than the nice side. But you'll find that when you see these in your career, it's very much to make sure that the software or whatever the building will meet the criteria it needs to solve a user need. But I think that something like this is like, you know, it's a lot more meta, high level, but you'll find that you'll have varying degrees of the lens. So sometimes it'll be super specific and sometimes it'll be zoomed out like this. So I think it's probably going to be different wherever you kind of go and what kind of role you have.
So what would be your next steps following this thing here? What would this drive out?
This will, you might pick, you know, 3 of those, for example, to go with.
And they would be chosen by the dot voting system.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I might include UX teams, all the UX teams, some POs, maybe other stakeholders if they want to get involved. And then you'll work with that. And then usually you just have like a final paragraph. So that you will agree on, and then you might have 6 of these. So simplicity, then principle 2 to 6.
Where did you find this workshop? How did you come up with it? Or...
I was looking online. I can't remember where I found it. I can dig it out though. I can find it and send through links. Yeah,
I just wondered if it was a specific website you used or you did.
I think it might have been the Miro, one of the Miro templates actually. But I can find that for you. So guys, this part I still need to flesh out a little bit more. I'm kind of jumping ahead a bit there, but I'm literally at these research themes and the interviewing at the moment. So
for those that aren't familiar with this process, can you explain a bit of dot voting, how that works?
Oh yeah, I've got dot voting down here. So you will pick a color, and I think we on this example 6 votes, so you can vote on your favorite. I suppose it depends on what level. So for example, on the research themes, you might have 6 dots to choose 6 of these themes. This board's going to be really full up. And then other people will vote on that as well. And the themes with the most dots, we will take forward to, I suppose, the next round, really, where we start to look at them in a bit more detail. Yeah. So it's a great way for the whole team to get involved and vote for their favorite theme. And that's used in things like design sprints, which I think I've shown you guys before. It's quite a kind of common way of voting these days.
So let's say you've got one theme or maybe a couple of themes that go through to the next round. What would happen to the other themes? Would that form some sort of a backlog that you might return back to you later down the line? I
don't think so. I will probably store it, but I think we'll go forward with this kind of 6 to 8 themes. Mm-hmm. I'll keep all the research, but I think like I was saying earlier, having more than 6 to 8 themes, it's too much, or 6 to 8 principles, it becomes too much, and I don't think you'd use them. So guys, that's where I've got to. I apologize for the for the bad sound quality, but I'd be interested to hear if other people have actually done done anything with design principles, and so I'll hand over to you guys.
Oh, can I just ask a quick question? Once you've finished all of this and you have all your principles and it's all written up and designed, where do you store it? Where do you put it? Do people just dip into it as and when they need to know?
Oh, that's a very good question, actually, because I think you need them kind of front and center for people to use them. I think the UX team uses them anyway, so we've always got a set of posters on the wall. But is there other ways for other teams to view them? And that's why I was showing. You can have them on the wall, for example, in your office or something like that, just to make sure they're always visible for people to see. So you could have. I've seen other people create like a little intranet website where you can go in and find a bit more detail about them, but not everyone uses that. So I prefer to have them like printed somewhere, printed on the wall. And also, actually, in my last place, part of for new starters, part of the onboarding process was to come and talk to me about and I explain about the design principles, and that would be, it had to like tick a box to actually say they've done that. So all new starters had to understand it as well. And I think that makes sense, because you do all this work and you want them to be used. And I suppose another thing is it's probably worth refreshing them every couple of years as well, because the business might have changed. The team might have changed. So it keeps it fresh.
It's an interesting. Actually, should we stop sharing the screen? Then we can all see each other. Might be quite good.
Yeah.
There we go. It's interesting. It's an interesting point that you raised. An interesting topic we've covered actually today. Design principles are something that I find incredibly fascinating, particularly from a branding point of view. Back to my old branding days, but more so now that I'm working, for example, at Talk, and you say about having visuals up and that sort of stuff. We had, I suppose, you could almost class them as brand principles that filter down into the way we design as well. We have to design for everyone. We have to. One of ours is we zig when the world zags, for example. I mean, I know that's obviously a very high level principle, where yours are probably much more specific, but the point is the same. And I made the comment earlier that I want to reiterate again. It's very important that whenever you, as a designer, when you're in a company, for example, if I am looking to present something and someone might turn, and I want it to be a bit different, I'm thinking actually let's take the opportunity to do something a bit different rather than rely on reams and reams of user testing and do dot to dot and just paint by numbers. And someone contested it, I will be able to turn around and say, well, actually, this is my interpretation of our principle. I'm trying to zig a little bit while the rest of the world's zagging. So I appreciate that you can use them, and you can not hide behind them is the wrong thing, but you can use them to justify what you're doing. And if you ever go into anything like, I mean, as a designer, one of the first things I did when I got into UX was try to memorize the 10 principles of design by Dieter Rams. I would advise you all to just print out, stick on your wall, basically, because if you generally adhere to those, then you're not going to get far wrong with your work. So I think those kind of, whenever you produce a piece of work, trying early doors to get your principles down, even simple things like your tone of voice. It can be just 2 or 3 simple things, always deal. Well, one of my clients a while back always said to me, when we're doing some work for their project, they said, if you get unsure about anything you're designing for us, our mentality is white world. Just think white world. That's basically what he said. And we were like, okay, fine, fair enough. And the good thing with that, when we play back designs to them, we would say to them, we got a bit of unsure about this area, so we just thought white world and stripped it all out and kept it simple. They were like, yep, brilliant, that's perfect, thank you. But it helped keep it online. And it's just things like that can really help designs get you out of situations and get you out of, be real, sort of be your North Star on projects, which is so important.
Yeah.
As designers, we can get swamped with information, with research, with business KPIs, with our own bloody designer egos of which color, which fonts, whether I used XYZ imagery, is that pattern really relevant or not? Probably not. All these things confuse us, and sometimes just to have a couple of principles that you go, just get rid of that. Just think white world on this occasion. We were like, yeah, get rid of it all. It's not important on this. So I advise you to really look into your design principles and look to get it involved in every part of your work whenever you start a project. But yeah, Dieter Rams' 10 principles. I think it's called 10 principles of Good design, yeah. Dieter Ramsey.
There's a really good book on it actually, Charles, as well. She's quite worth a read if anyone gets a chance. It's quite a big book. It's worth reading.
What's the name?
I think it's by a lady called Sophie Lavelle. I think her name is. But she did like a book on Dieter Ram's 10 principles. She's really worth watching.
I've often said to people as well, sometimes I find often books that I get bits of good information from aren't always necessarily design-based books. So, whether I'm sure if you looked at the principles of Buddhism, you'd find probably quite a lot of things there that you could use in your own designs as well. I mean, one of the key, being a rugby fan, I read Clive Woodward's book called Winning, and when they turned around how they wanted the England team to be, they gave themselves key principles they were going to live by. One of them was we want bums to be off seats. That then dictated the way that they wanted the team to play. They wanted people to stand up there. So these little lessons and little rules you set yourselves can be absolutely vital in putting together all sorts of stuff. See, Katie shares something in the Dieter Ramsey Principles for Good Design in the chat. That's great. Has anyone else got experience in kind of principles like this that may not even be design ones that they've worked in the company?
I think the thing that's worth talking about super briefly on that, for me, I think when we've done software projects, particularly the stuff I've done for TFGem, we always talked about the principles from like a technology standpoint, and it mirrored the design and it mirrored the development. So I think there's a bunch of them in the Agile principles, and you basically got the Agile Manifesto, which I'll share on the Slack group for everyone to see, because it's definitely worth having a look at. But I think one of the key ones that we had was that stuff's extensible, and it was a really simple principle. It's almost just one by itself, really, when you're working in like a really lean, agile way. When something's extensible, what we basically mean is start small, build, and iterate further on top of it. So we had that from a technology standpoint, but it also works from a design standpoint as well, because it means that you work something really lean with the view to add more later. Don't add too much now, add more later when you know more, when you learn more, that type of thing. So the principles can be, really, really short, to be honest with you, depending on what it is you're doing.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I think one that I'm glad we discussed a little bit today, and I feel we've kind of only really just scratched the surface on it, really. It'd be really interesting for people who are going back to their work tomorrow or the next few days or whatever to maybe start to think about what principles are governing my work today. And then if you start scratching that surface, you can probably find a little bit more about the company you're working for, the agency you're working for, or whatever project you're working on. It can be, like Paul demonstrated, it can be very, very detailed, or it can be much, much more high level. So I think that'll be really interesting for the next week to people to think about that a little bit. And also, again, these sort of principles can shape the way you are as a designer as well. The way you design, the way you want to design. Some people might want to design a particular way, which is absolutely fine. It's just you can certainly put your stall out, and it can help you in things like we've talked a lot about portfolios recently and interviews. It can certainly help you govern the way that you want to put yourself across in terms of your work and your personality when it comes to those sort of stages. I think it's really worth paying attention to. And some of the bits and bobs that people are talking about in the chat here, I would make a few notes of them and certainly have a look. And over the next week, and while it's still a bit fresh in your head, and go from there. Cool.
I can also share a lot of the links that I've been using as well. So is there a Slack channel specifically for that stuff, or how are we doing it?
Oh, we can obviously have a quick look at what we've got in the Slack channels. We've got one called Books and Resources, could be quite good. Share stuff for now, and we'll go from there on it. So that'd be great.
Well, there are a few in the example principles, the do, don't, low vision stuff. Kind of caught my eye, so any links to that would be
okay. Yeah.
And also, it's interesting to note to people who won't be that experienced that the program Paul's using Miro, don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone calls it different things, don't they? Miro.
It's a really good program actually, and a while back when we first started up this group, we started up a Miro board where we were just documenting a lot of things before we put them all onto Slack. We probably still got it floating around, I'd have thought.
God, that's going back a few months, Charles, isn't it?
It is.
That was like lockdown 1. That was.
I think it might have been, but maybe we should at one point look at firing some of that up, because I suspect that we may start to lose a few resources on Slack at some point if we once we start, because we're starting to hoover through the messages now. So we'll maybe look into that. But it's a free tool to sign up for. So those of you who are looking to sort of, start to add to your suite of tools, things like Figma, Miro, all these sort of tools, maybe sign up for them, start getting them on your laptops and playing with them and get familiar with them. These are simple things you can start doing. And, you might even then just start to teach yourself how to use them by thinking, I'll design myself an app or something, just for one afternoon. I taught myself to use Adobe Illustrator by doing the characters of South Park in my first year at university. So set yourself a little task, and obviously a good way to learn a program. So yeah, that's worth mentioning. That Miro is a really good tool. Right.
I think also it's recently there's been a lot of new templates on Miro that are really useful. Some really good stuff.
That's a good point as well, actually. Whenever we do get these things like Figma or Miro or Sketch, if you can just start typing in anything really, some so-and-so template for Sketch, you can download resources and really start playing with them and pulling them all apart and having a look at how they're put together, and they can really bring your designs to life very, very quickly. And also, like Paul just demonstrated then, good templates for presentations. We've talked about that as well, in terms of how we put together presentations for interviews. You can get good templates that you can populate quite easily. Some people might prefer to use PowerPoint, some people might prefer to use Google Slides, you can use Miro. There's all these things out there that we can use. So, feel free to start playing with these as well. These programs have all been designed with designers in mind, for these things, collation of lots of different ideas, presentation across different screens and all sorts of stuff. So it's worthwhile rolling your sleeves and hooking into them and spending some time on them. But no, it was really good. Once we got going, it was all good. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
Next time I'll get a booster for internet or something. It's we've got one. I don't know what's going on, but could be the snow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that'd be the one.
But I'll have a look into that. Don't worry. My computer's set up now for preferences, so I should have no problem sharing screens. But yeah, apologies. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. So
it's probably good. It happens when you're amongst friends rather than any kind of really important work presentation. So that's good. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. As ever, please do get in touch. Some people I've been speaking to this week, and I've got some other people to get in touch with and catch up with over the next week. It's my birthday weekend this week. Whoop, whoop. So I won't be on too much activities over the weekend. But I'll just do a whoop whoop. But I will most certainly be around if anyone needs a quick question here and there or a quick hand. As ever, though, we have now got Paul and Ed, who've got extensive experience and much more expertise in a lot of areas than I have. So please feel free to speak to them as well. Make sure to remind Paul to not go on mute for half of it there if you start talking to him. And all right, teasing. Thanks for your effort today, mate. Really appreciate it. And next week it's Josie, and we've got Slack groups as well, so everyone contribute to that, so and talk to each other and lean on each other if you've got any questions or anyone needs any help. So with that, we'll say congratulations again to Crystal for her new job. Excellent. And I'll see you all next Tuesday, or if not before.
Great stuff.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes, have a good one, Charles.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.